Is the mother of invention, they say. And Norm was very ingenious as a young man. He had nothing better to do, so he ordered a mail-order chemistry set and played around with the chemistries and learned that, you know, if you mixed one element with another, you got something else. Eventually, he set the kitchen curtains on fire and had to move outside to do his experiments, but it was his inquisitive nature. And I know that a lot of kids are inquisitive by their very nature because they're trying to discover the world, right? I mean, it's new to them. Everything's new as they grow up, and until you get to a certain point where, oh, that's the same old, same old. So our focus is trying to, you know, help these kids, inspire these kids. If I had more time, I would actually lay out my program where eventually I want to be able to set up this program where kids would go through. It would be a simulation. They are hooked up to an EEG. They are hooked up to a flight simulator, and we're looking for bilateral communication in their brain. We're trying to get recordings of how their brain is operating, and we're trying to determine the characteristics that this individual possesses and how we can then spur that and nourish it, and in all facets, not just, you know, the medical side, the brain side, but the character development side. So think of it like, you know, if you look at how we spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to recruit the next football player or baseball player, and even the colleges, right? Whereas if you just spent 1% of what we waste on that, trying to find these engineers and these kids and inspire these kids, we could actually have a kid that develops a technology that changes mankind, but the only way you're going to find it, and that leads me into another story, is if you're looking for a needle in a haystack. And that was one of the images I gave to Norm in why I was doing our rural schools education initiative. I said, you know, if you're going to go look for a needle in the haystack, you have to go where haystacks are.
Right.
So we went out to Lourdes Charter School in Jordan.
I'm familiar with that.
Okay,
yes.
so we pull up on the backside where the church is, and there's a farmhouse and a bunch of hay bales. And I pull over, and I'm in my truck, and there's satellite GPS with a screen there, and it shows the church, but it doesn't show the charter school. And I said, Norm, I think we're lost. And he looked at me, and he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, what do you see out there? And he goes, well, I see hay bales. And just as he's saying that, I turn the corner, and he's looking at the school. And he goes, you weren't kidding about rural schools, were you? And so we go in there, and we meet with these 5th and 6th grader classes. This one kid asked one of the best questions out of the entire trip. And Norm's answer blew everybody's mind away, because if you were, next time you look up at the Big Dipper, there's a little dark spot at the end of that tail of stars. And so the Hubble Space Telescope was focused on that for 10 days, and they found 10,000 points of light. 2 of them are stars that are relatively close by. The other 9,998 objects are galaxies with between 2 and 400 billion stars each.
Wow.
Think about that for a moment. So this kid goes, well, if it's happening there, it's got to be happening there. And Norm says, no, fill in everywhere you're looking with that grain of rice, and it's happening everywhere. The principal actually sat down and grasped her head, because she was just trying to figure out the infinite vastness of that. So when you see that ignition, and I'm going to deviate to another little story about a young lady that had autism that went to space camp. And the mother had dropped the child off. And in the 10 years this teacher has been doing this, he had never had a parent leave the child. And when she came back on Wednesday to pick up the child, she was very concerned because she doesn't see her child with her students, the class. And so she goes to the teacher and goes, where's my daughter?
Where's my child?
And the teacher goes, well, why did you leave? Well, she has autism, and I didn't want to interfere with her participation. And the teacher goes, well, you didn't disclose that. And he goes, where's my daughter? Well, ma'am, she's in the flight shuttle trainer, and she's one of the only 47 kids that could actually land this thing, and part of the team has to win, so you have to take off and land, and she can do it consistently. So the mother is just blown away. The child goes back to Medford, and who was before just sitting there in the class, not participating, daydreaming, but now she joins the debate club. She goes on to get a mathematical degree. So it cracked this shell, and that's what we're after. And so any student, any teacher, any parent can always come by our restaurant. It's the Gardner House Cafe at 633 North 3rd Avenue in Stayton. Or they can, and inside of that cafe is our museum. So there's artifacts there that I put in the kids' hands. I tell them stories. Recently, we were donated Phil, number 174. He was a space chimp, and now I have his skull that's been preserved as part of our museum. And you should see the kids when they see this. They light up. And so, again, that's the Gardner House Cafe and Bed and Breakfast, 633 North 3rd Avenue in Stayton. And the museum's located in that, and that's www.jplmuseum.org. And if you're a teacher or a student or a principal and you would like us to come visit, the restaurant's closed on Monday, so I try to schedule a Monday, and I go out, I bring artifacts, and I try to tell some funny stories and show them some, some things that you just normally don't have an opportunity.
You are in the process, I believe, of scheduling or trying to schedule some more opportunities around Oregon this fall. And is there any information that you can share? Or
yeah, October 15th at the Stayton Hospital in the auditorium, I believe around 7 p.m., but don't hold me to that yet. Norm Chaffee will be doing, it's open to the public, so anyone who wants to show up can come to the auditorium at the Stayton Hospital, and they'll have an opportunity to meet Norm, and he'll share his story. And our objective is twofold, not only talking to the students, but also to the community at large. And so, for instance, we are in Medford and Ashland. We're going to be doing a fundraiser for the local school for an evening event, same in Bend, where they were actually kind of surprised, where I said, we're going to be there in the evening, you buy us dinner and you charge other people, you can raise money for your school. And they went, really? That's a different twist. So we're in the process of trying to work that out. But the money would be raised for their school. It would be dedicated, in this particular case, to the astronomy team that they have there. But like in Lakeview, they don't have a robotics team. And so the principal was like, you want to do what? I said, I want to help you raise money so you can have a robotics team. And he goes, okay.
Sounds good.
Right.
Oh. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up here, but I do want to thank you so much, James, for coming and sharing this fantastic project that you're in the midst of, and the museum, and this effort for the Rural Schools Educational Initiative that's reaching out to those in rural areas. And as we said, please, I encourage people to get in touch with James and find out how their student or students might get involved in what you're doing. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you again on the next Moms Matters.
All right.